started with a general overview, and some of you may have heard this general overview, and then we're going to take it into how to connect in your various roles with these different temperaments, and also how to direct some of their behaviors in as positive way as possible. Okay, how many of you have heard my little shtick on, you could just raise your hands, like, on the Winnie the Pooh characters, the 4 primary temperaments? Some of you have, yes, okay. So, so bear with me, because you're going to get the repeat version. But what we've discovered, and by the way, the temperaments are not new. They're not new to Waldorf education. They're not new, period. They're really not new at all, because people started studying personality types and temperaments or humors or quite a long time ago in the realm of medicine, in the realm of psychology, in the realm of education. So we're not talking about anything new. We just wrap a bit this framework using the Winnie the Pooh characters and Waldorf education methods and just a variety of different insights into our representation. But you can Wikipedia, you can Google, temperaments, and actually come up with lots of really great information. I think what we've done is tailor it tonight to parenting, coaching, working with children in various capacities. Okay, so are you all familiar with the Winnie the Pooh characters? I mean, you must have seen the flyer, or somebody said, yeah, okay. So, and by the way, great stories for kids and great family stories. So we're going to start with Winnie the Pooh, and Winnie the Pooh, they're also non-gendered. Have you guys noticed that in reading the books? It doesn't say he or she, they're non-gendered. So if you hear me say he or she, it just is because I stopped saying Pooh Bear or whatever. So Winnie the Pooh is what we call a phlegmatic temperament, and Winnie the Poohs are generally very good-natured creatures. They're pretty easygoing. They're quite steady and quite loyal. They don't have super strong preferences about most things, and really they don't. I never understood that. I had a best friend that was a Pooh Bear, and I always thought she was just not showing me her preferences. She really didn't have strong preferences. And Pooh Bears, they are kind of a go with the flow sort of people. If you ask a Pooh Bear if they would like to go to dinner, like an Italian food or Mexican food, something like that, they just say sure. And they probably would go to both, actually. You're like, come on, why am I always having to make the decision? And it's genuinely because they don't really mind. They don't usually have strong preferences. But it is really helpful for Pooh Bears to get to learn what their preferences might be. But they usually need a little encouragement around that. Like, what might their preferences be, so they can begin to understand what their preferences are and express what their needs might be. Because otherwise, they're so busy going along with everyone else, occasionally they don't really know what they need or what they want, and they sometimes hit a breaking point. And we're always shocked when they do. We're like, what? They lose it, they get mad, they bottle it up, and then they blow up at us. And we're like, wow, what is your problem? You're usually so easygoing. And they're thinking, yeah, I've just gotten tired of being pushed around or bossed around by you. So Pooh Bears, if they start to feel pressured or pushed in the world, they can get kind of a heavy, slowing down kind of feeling. And they can become kind of stubborn or resistant, but they don't mean to. It's not like they intentionally dig their heels in and become unmovable. It's that they may be getting a bit overwhelmed or feeling a little disregarded or disrespected, so their whole system slows down, and then they get a little muddled. Pooh Bear can get a little bit muddled. Okay, how about?
They're generally just very pleasant children, like, unless you're trying to hurry them up.
Yeah.
They're really lovely children to just kind of hang out with. They will snuggle with you. They will just enjoy quiet life.
They play on their own, you know, they're pretty steady. They work in a steady way, you know, they're very stabilizing little creatures and big creatures. So, by the way, as we bring these temperaments, this overview picture to you, I want you to sort of think about, as you would be already, about yourselves, about your children.
Your husband or wife.
Your husband or wife. Yeah. We had a lot of fun and maybe a few arguments over preparation for this class. Yeah, and with all of these temperaments, there are strengths and attributes, there are gifts, and there are challenges. So there isn't one temperament, although we might sometimes think there's a better temperament. There really isn't a better temperament. Each temperament has its strength and each temperament has its challenge. And so when we are honoring the strengths, we also are learning how to support what might be the challenges or the important areas of connection. And with the temperaments, we may have a primary temperament, we may exhibit a primary temperament, or we may have kind of a mixture of temperaments. So please don't feel like you have to fit yourself into one box, because many of us actually are like, oh yeah, I really relate to that, and I relate to this. Or you might go, oh, my kid is definitely that, and my other kid is definitely that. But the other thing to keep in mind is that stages of life, developmental stages of life, also are temperamentally flavored. Early childhood is a very sanguine time of life, and I'll get into that. And then adolescence can be a bit more of a melancholic time of life. Big surprise, right? Productive adult life is a bit more of that fiery, choleric time of life, and middle age and beyond is a little more Pooh Bear time of life, which I never related to Pooh Bear until I turned 50. And I was like, oh, I could just sit around and eat some more chocolate. I'm like, I could actually sit and read a book. That I never related to that before. So it's been kind of a good experiment for me. Okay, so we talked about Pooh Bear, and that's the phlegmatic, easygoing, middle-aged character that, of course, many of our children might exhibit some of those tendencies. Another easygoing character, but one that has a bit more energy. Any guesses? Tigger! Okay, so Pooh Bear, right, is out for little walks. You know, goes for little walks in the woods and notices all the small things. Tigger, on the other hand, is doing what through the woods? Bouncing. Bouncing. Early childhood is a Tigger time of life. So Tiggers tend to be also quite easygoing, quite jovial, good-natured as well, but a bit more the life of the party. Pooh Bears are a bit more quiet and even a little more internal, where Tiggers are not so quiet and not so internal. They're much more external. They're very social. They are excited by a lot of things. They have a lot of interests. You know, they're energetic. They're not always great at reading social cues, right? They sometimes pounce on their friends because they love their friends. But friends don't like it, and Tiggers don't even realize it when their friends don't like it. Because their intention is that I will pounce on you because I like you. Therefore, that, you know, and so when a friend says, oh my God, stop pouncing on me or touching me or whatever, they're like, what? You know, and it's not because they mean any harm or to be crossing boundaries. It's just because they're excited and they're, you know, they have a lot of energy and they like connection. So they're very social, they're very outwardly focused. They do have a harder time finishing tasks, you know, so challenges for Tiggers are that they need to learn to lengthen and deepen their attention. And They will, especially in early childhood, a ticker often will get misunderstood or diagnosed with ADHD, right, or some kind of defiance. Nowadays, a second grade boy is like oppositional defiant disorder, and I'm like, oh, want to pull my hair out because that's not true. And then, of course, you know what they do is they take away recess as a punishment. When what tiggers need is to be able to move. They literally need to be able to move their body, move the energy. And yes, over time, they do need help and support and guidance with deepening and lengthening their attention and completing things. So when you're able to break things down into small tasks and usually work alongside, they'll be a lot more successful. Plus, they need to learn to look at their friends' faces and read social cues. And so if someone's like, stay away from me, then just don't pounce on that friend. Pounce on some other friend, you know. So two very good-natured creatures, but very different in their expression. Okay, so then we have a rabbit. And you may remember in the stories, Rabbit is the one that's always going along looking very important. There goes Rabbit looking very important. There is Rabbit leading the expedition. Of course, they have the funny little names. They're like, expedition? What is that? It's the expedition to the North Pole, but you know, they call it the expedition. So rabbits are very busy. They are very focused. They have a lot of passion and drive. They generally know where they're going and why they're going in that direction. Rabbits actually are really excellent leaders. They have the life force and the energy and the vitality to literally get stuff done. So, you know, they're passionate, they're driven, they're focused, and they also can have a hard time taking other people into consideration or slowing themselves down because they just know where they want things to go. And they usually are, and they're quite competent, so honestly, they look around and they see some of us sitting there and they're like, you all need me to lead you. You know, like, if we're gonna get anything done, I need to take charge. So rabbits naturally want to take charge, and they're actually really good at it, but they also need to sometimes learn to slow down and realize that there are other ways of doing things, and people's pacing might be different than theirs, and to take other people into consideration. So if rabbits can learn to do that, they actually really are people who accomplish quite a lot or move into those leadership roles. And as long as they have that warmth and presence and ability to recognize other people's strengths, they're really quite good people to follow.
It may take a minute to rub off the rough edges.
It may take a minute to rub off the rough edges.
They don't come out starting like that in second or third grade.
No, and they don't realize, you know, because kids especially, even many of us as adults, we think that the world thinks like us, or other people think like that's its heart. Oh yes, we've got beautiful, oh, yeah, nice buck out there. He's a pretty buck, yeah. So, you know, that's a little bit of a Tigger thing. Whoa, look at that. You know, like, here we are teaching and I'm looking out the window, even though I'm not that Tigger, like, by nature. That's just Travis rubbing off on me after 25 years. I've learned to have a sense of humor, but that was not my nature to begin with. No sense of humor at all. So, okay, where are we? With the choleric kiddos. This is the kiddo on the playground that will be like run out in second grade and be looking at their watch or the clock going, okay guys, we got 15 minutes. So we're gonna play this game. You're gonna be this person, you're gonna be this person, you're gonna be this person, I'm gonna be the princess. Okay, so let's play. And isn't gonna stand around wasting freaking 15 minutes, like it's recess. And so, and a number of the kids will be like, fine, right? A ticker will go, great, haha, and then like start playing and then get distracted. You know, a Pooh Bear will just be like, okay, you know, and Eeyore, if they have enough energy, they might join for a little while, but they might not. So, you know, it's hard for a rabbity kiddo to learn to go, okay guys, we have 15 minutes. Does anybody have any ideas? Like, what should we play? They're thinking, why would we waste this time? I mean, I could just decide for everybody.
And it would be a better decision.
And it would be a better decision. But I would have to sit around here and waste 5 minutes while people hem and haw about what they might want to do. And so it's extremely painful for a rabbit. But they do practice, if they can practice. Slowing down, asking other people what they might think or what they might like to do or what they might need, it generally will protect relationships for them. And rabbits actually really, they care a lot. It just doesn't seem like it sometimes. But they care a lot about their relationships, and deep and meaningful relationships are important to them, but they have a hard time trusting people, especially if somebody isn't showing competence. Or confidence, or both. So they're tricky. Rabbits are tricky. Okay, so that's the choleric temperament. And then the last one is Eeyore, right?
Because of course it would be last.
Because of course it would be last. You know, I'm surprised you remembered me at all. I definitely relate to Eeyore. And Eeyores, you know, I mean, they often are also very misunderstood because Eeyore is the donkey, you know, in the thistle patch, away from everybody, eating thistles. And people go, you know, everyone goes around and it's like, Eeyore, what is wrong with you? Because Eeyore's like, sort of down in the dumps. And Eeyore, do you know what Eeyore does though? When people say, what is wrong? Is, you know, Eeyore looks up and starts looking around. Really? Is there something wrong? And they're like with you. I mean, look at you. But Eeyore doesn't even think something's wrong. Eeyores are very introspective. They're very deep. They do tend to be overly self-focused and absorbed, but not because they're egocentric or like selfish. It's because they feel things very deeply. They do tend to worry a lot. They're worrying about things. And that is hard for Eeyores because they don't always look up and look out at the world and go, oh, there's other stuff going on, not just my own thinking or my own feeling life. So Eeyores, they are incredibly sensitive and thoughtful and deep and caring. They're philosophical and artistic and creative, but they really benefit from, well, first of all, getting a sense of humor, but they also benefit from pausing and kind of looking up and out at the world and at beautiful things like sunrises and sunsets and things that they can feel really grateful for, not just the things that they're worried about or scared about, or they really feel the suffering of the planet, so they can get very kind of, well, down in the dumps. But they also have their gifts. And so a really important thing with Eeyores is to not tell them to lighten up. So a Tigger might be like, oh my God, lighten up, like take life more lightly. And that's really actually an unfair thing to tell an Eeyore because they don't just lighten up. I mean, they are hardwired in this very deep internal way. They can take themselves more lightly. Like I said, I actually have a sense of humor now. It's only taken 25 years. You know, but I'm like, oh, I laugh a lot, but I laugh at myself. If somebody else laughed at me, it would hurt a lot. So I don't like being laughed at, but I can learn to take myself more lightly. And that's the melancholic tendency. Okay, so anything you want to add to any of those in terms of the big overview?
One other thing you can kind of attach to each of them is sort of an element. And so with the choleric, you can kind of imagine the fire element, this kind of consuming, always moving, a lot of heat there. With the sanguine, then we have much more of the kind of airy forces, right? And so you can think of them almost like a blustery fall day, right? Where they're just like, it's just kind of here and there, and they can be a whole lot of fun, and then it just all gets kind of chaotic and out of hand at times. Our phlegmatic, they are more watery. And so you could think about the like rhythmic nature of the tides and waves on the shore, where that kind of rhythmic, predictable sort of life process is really nurturing to them. And then the melancholic is actually more the earth element. And you can almost imagine them, they're almost in pain because of their physical body, like weighs them down and just kind of dragging it through life is challenging. Where it really is, where it's like the choleric takes hold of their physical body and uses it like a hammer, right? And will just like crash their way through the world to accomplish what they want to. So those can give a little bit of pieces there. Yeah.
Do you want to mention, we were talking this summer, we hosted athletes, cross-country skiers, and college students, and we were chuckling earlier because we had 4 total in the house, and
yeah, so we had these 4 athletes. They're all like 18 to 21-ish. 2 young men, 2 young women. And one of the young men, if he was done with his workout or work, come home, have some food, and nap. And I could be in the house with him and not even really hear him in the house, because the phlegmatic will tend to even just kind of like shuffle along, and just kind of going like this. And very, very pleasant.
yes,
Super sweet. But then also you could be having a conversation and it just would go away. And the phlegmatic is the one temperament that will kind of go into neutral sometimes, where they just like, they can look like getting distracted, but the sanguine gets distracted by all of this stuff. They just love the world and it's exciting and there's all these things happening. And so they're like, wow, right? If you have a sanguine child, like, don't buy sports equipment or music equipment the first time they express an interest in something, like, or if you do get used stuff, because it may not be a lasting thing. It will not be, yeah. And so we had a young man, and another one, and he would come home, and he would be making meals, and he was excited about food and tastes, and he would have music on. And he's texting his buddies and his friends, and they're organizing things to get up. And he's like, I think I'm going to ride my bike to Glenn's Ferry, because they're supposed to have the best ice cream in the state. And then I'm going to go climb over here. And I'm going to do it. It was just like, he would have needed 4 summers to fit in all of the ideas that he had. And he walked like fairly lightly. And then we had 2 young women that were both like 5'4", so they're significantly smaller than these young men. And I would be downstairs and just hear this. They're like, it's easy on the floors up there, right? And these were just much more choleric in personality. And when they went somewhere, it was with a purpose. They had something that they were going to accomplish. And so it was really interesting to have all of that in our house and go with that.
And appreciate the different temperaments.
Yeah, all very fun. Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're just going to do a tiny little thing. We're going to think about yourselves first. So thinking about yourself, hearing this outline, this impression of these 4 different temperaments, if you would be so willing to stand up, and you might stand up multiple times, because you might go, well, I am a little this, and I am a little this. We're gonna go through 4 different temperaments, and if you're so willing to out
And a
yourself.
friend or spouse might make you stand up.
Okay, so we're just thinking about ourselves individually. Anybody? Yeah. And there are better temperaments than these. I appreciate that. Okay, so starting with Winnie the Pooh, if you identify at all with Winnie the Pooh, the phlegmatic tendencies, easygoing Winnie the Pooh, please feel free to stand up. I only do because I'm in midlife, right? So, okay, Pooh Bear.
Which one's
Winnie
Pooh Bear?
Winnie the Pooh, the phlegmatic tendencies.
I know, yeah.
Primary or secondary?
Okay, primary or secondary.
Primary, secondary,
So
thank you.
that wouldn't totally mean either. Okay, well.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, primary. And then, okay. Primary or secondary, awesome. Okay. And then another good-natured creature, Tigger, right? Yes, please. Right? Lots of excitement, multiple interests, energy. Very fun. Okay, great. Now we've got our rabbits. Those, yep. I was going to say if Rick
Yeah, if Rick doesn't stand up,
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah. That's right. And Rick's only going to stand up on rabbits. Okay, great. Lots of rabbits. Oh yeah, definitely rabbits.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the last one is the melancholy. That's you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, come on. We add a lot to life, right? Okay, good. Thanks for noticing. Yeah. Thanks for noticing. We do appreciate being recognized and noticed. Okay, and then if you have children or somebody that you know, maybe just giving a little thought to them. Anybody who feels like they have primarily a Pooh Bear kind of kiddo, go ahead and stand up. If you have a Pooh Bear kind of kiddo, we think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and and it may be a Pooh Bear kind of kiddo. Okay, what about a rabbity kind of kiddo? Remember, early childhood is also a bit rabbity. What is this one? Oh yeah, rabbit.
Yeah,
rabbit.
you're standing for
Yes,
rabbity.
yes, he is a very rabbit kind of kiddo. Yeah, more of the fire. The fire, the glare. Okay. Okay, great. And then, all right. So lots of rabbit kiddos.
Yeah.
Lots
There's
of
a lot of rabbit kiddos.
There's a lot of rabbit kiddos, a lot of drive. Okay, and they're hard to parent. Hard to parent. Okay, what about Tiggers? Tiggers, Nancy? Yeah, we don't really have a Tigger. Yeah, it depends on the day. Okay. We're undecided.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one is the melancholic. Right? So we have a kiddo that is very driven and focused, but also melancholic. Yeah. Yeah, it's like. Okay. Okay. So, by the way, when you leave today, we have compiled an overview sheet of the different temperaments, and then also a sheet on connecting and directing these kiddos. But now Travis is gonna, how are we doing? Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the things I want to cover now is I want to give a couple of scenarios of how different temperaments might respond to certain situations, just to kind of give a little bit more pictorial view of that, and then talk about what does each temperament primarily need from us as adults, and how do we help them also adapt to change And how do we approach each temperament when there is some discipline or guidance that is needed? Because that is very different depending on the kiddos, right? So we'll start with a couple of scenarios.
I was just going to say, also, we will have some time to talk about specific questions, so we will make sure we put that in there, but please.
Okay, so first scenario, it's lunchtime at school. Kids are here. I added this one in. I didn't tell you I was doing this. It just came in today. Big surprise. Yeah. When we were first together, we were driving around the country, and we would. And I'm very much Tigger and choleric, and so we would drive around, and everything I saw looked cool to me. And so I'd be like, oh, we could be farmers in the Methil Valley, right? Oh, let's buy a tugboat in the San Juans and renovate it. Oh, and it would be like, and Carrie would take each one of those seriously and start to like try and plan how to do that, right? And I was, by that time we'd gone over the next ridge and there was another idea, But that is the sanguine where all of life is just interesting and fun, and you're like, hey, let's do this. So it's lunchtime, and kids start eating, and who's the first group done?
Rabbits.
The rabbits. Yep, they have hardly chewed their food at all, right? They may have eaten it standing or be shoving food in their mouths as they go out the door to do something, right? They will be followed possibly by the sanguines, right? Unless the sanguines are talking with their friends, in which point, they are like eating a little bit and then and you come back 20 minutes later and you're like, what happened, right?
Is the sanguine?
That sanguine is taken. Yeah, sanguine is taken.
I would make the
Yep. No.
joke
Right.
kid.
Yeah. No. So our sanguines make it out. Our melancholics are possibly arranging their food on their desks and getting it all set up, right? And the Pooh Bears are just savoring. This cracker's so good. And you're like, and eventually they all make it outside, and the rabbits, come on, like we got to get something going here. Like, we're gonna play this. This is what we're doing. And the Tiggers are gonna go along with this, generally speaking, unless they've been playing that game for a while, right? And then the Tiggers will be like, this game's boring, we played it for the last week, let's do something else. But most likely the rabbits are going to kind of like force that one through, and they will get that, right? And the phlegmatics, the Pooh Bears, they're going to kind of just get drawn in because they're fun people and everybody likes to be around them, and they get pulled into the game. And on the side, right, melancholics, are going to have to kind of get drawn in, maybe because the sides aren't even or something like that, right? And so they're needed, but they know that people don't really want them on the team anyway. And so the game starts, right? And it starts, and before very long, some of them are going to start to exit, right? Generally, someone will have brushed up against a melancholic, and they will have fallen down, and they're personally have been just taken such affront because obviously this person ran from the other side of the playground just to run into them and knock them down, right? So they are very, very sad, and they are kind of, maybe some of their friends, sanguine will notice that. They'll come and sort of, help them for a little bit, but they're not going to stay interested for that long. They're going to get back to the game. This is what if they're lucky, a Pooh Bear will come, right? And they'll stay a little longer. Maybe another melancholic. The the cholerics have nothing to do with this, right? This
It
is
looks like weakness.
yeah, this is just not
whatever.
So then maybe a few of the sanguines get kind of bored and they start to filter out on the sides. They're going to go do something else. And if you end up with maybe a choleric on each team or several cholerics on each team, if it's a team sport, it starts to kind of, from the adult point of view, no longer look like this fun childhood game and starts to look like a mixed martial arts match that vaguely relates to a soccer ball, right? But the cholerics are loving it, right? This is what they live for. This is battling the dragon, and they are like going at it. And at this point, you know, a lot of the other group is just like, oh, okay, you know, you guys have fun. Your sticks are flying everywhere, and you know. So that can be kind of how a recess might go for the different groups. And the cholerics may come in, and the teacher's like, "You're bleeding."
They're like,
Oh yeah, I am. And it's kind of that sort of response. Whereas, you know, the melancholic is, "I need a Band-Aid." The teacher's like. Right, so a little picture of that. We can imagine that happening. Then we might imagine later that evening, there's a thunderstorm rolling in, right? And you start to hear the thunder. So here's the first one to notice and go running out. It's the sanguine. Right? This is exciting. There's chains. There's a charge in the air. Sorry, yeah, Tigger. Thank you. So out they go to see it. Right? Woo! Look at yeah, all over the like it's so fun. Right? The melancholic is immediately remembering bad things that might happen from a thunderstorm. Right? Whether personally to them. Whether personally to them or something they've read about or heard about, and they will be happy to warn the others of all the terrible things that may happen to them and think them very, very foolish to be going out there and swimming this, right? And the phlegmatics may or may not take an interest. It might be fun to go out with their friends, but if I've got a bowl of warm food, and a cozy blanket, or something like that, it's just as fine inside, right? I don't need to go out. And then the choleric, right? Rabbit goes out. Rabbit does not want to just watch the storm like Tigger does, right? Rabbit, they might not do it, but their inner experience is they want to challenge the storm. And for real, because they actually kind of experience themselves as a force of nature. And they literally want to go out and be like, "Come on! Let's see what you can do! You call that a win?" Because that's where they feel alive, right? With this something they can bump up against, right? So let me just see where we. Okay. Questions about any of that before we go on to kind of meeting their needs there? Does that resonate with people for different kiddos or yourselves? Or... What's that?
I'm definitely that choleric.
Are you during storms? Yeah.
And he's an Eeyore, so it's a funny combo at storm time.
Yeah. We, when we would go to like the Grand Canyon or something, I would want to be out like looking down on the cliff. And Eeyore does not appreciate that. That is yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard this explained for like a group project, like if you have a bunch of students or kids like trying to work on something together with these personalities, that
It's life, yeah.
Yeah, no, it very, like you very much see, if you pair.
Rabbit takes over.
Rabbit is definitely rabbit is gonna take over because they feel it is their natural given right to do so. And
they're good at it.
And they're good at it. I mean, that is like things will get done. There may be feelings hurt along the way, but that is
But also, a good rabbit will know what people's strengths are, and they'll also take enough time to say, okay, which part of the project would you like to do? And then somebody, they might know, because rabbits also notice stuff. They might know somebody's more artistic, so hey, you're very artistic, you're gonna do the drawing for this. And then and so really when rabbits are in their element, they also will assign people what their strengths are.
Yeah.
But rabbits, if they're not in their element, then
if they haven't matured, then
yeah.
Another lens we can kind of look at these through is where's their focus in time? Right?
Yeah.
And so for the sanguine, for the tigger, and for the phlegmatic, for poo, they're present tense. They're in the present moment. This is where they kind of live. That's their home, right? And they view things through that lens. The melancholic is past oriented, right? Sorry. The only one,
upset about the past, wondering, worrying, wishing we could have done things different.
Yep, all of that. And the choleric is future oriented. So they are planning, this is what I'm going to do, or do this, boom, 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 what things they're going to accomplish. And so when they are talking or discussing things, right, you can have real misses in terms of what each person needs, right? If a melancholic person is wanting to discuss things with a sanguine or a choleric or a sanguine choleric, the melancholic is going to say, we can learn a lot from what's happened in the past, right? And we can so we're going to need to look at that a lot and talk about that in order to then move forward. It doesn't exist for the sanguine and the choleric, right? That is an irrelevant area because I'm looking at what I want to do, right? And they're both totally valid perspectives and both have a lot to offer, but they can definitely talk past each other. Anything else in there?
I was just thinking about our daughter who definitely has some of the choleric, well, quite a bit, the choleric rabbit. And even at like 3 years old, she'd have a birthday party and she would be 3 and we'd be like, oh, honey, you're 3. And she'd be like, when do I turn 4? And she was impatient with herself from like a very young age, and also impatient with others, but impatient with time and impatient with herself because she just wanted to be ahead, which made it very painful for her because she could never quite catch up or enjoy necessarily this part. But you can see it at a very young age.
So what is each one wanting from us? What is really helpful for each temperament? Right? So if we start with the sanguine, with the tigers, their natural element is warmth and love. Right? And so what they really, of all the temperaments, need from adults is that feeling of love. Not that if we're our parents or teachers that we are their friends, but that our gesture, our inner sort of state when we're working with them is from that warmth and from that love, right? And knowing that, and a sense that even when they do things that we want to correct, we are not maybe taking it too seriously and shaming or coming down too hard on them. And that's what will help to draw them in to deepening their interests, right? If they have a relationship with a loving adult, they can start to deepen their interests instead of continuing the like beep, beep, boop, 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 all over, right? And then that sort of social gift can really, come to more of a benefit.
And they also, they need boundaries
For sure.
and guidance. They do need us to help them understand that they have an impact on other people. But like Travis said, to kind of touch on it lightly, and not make fun of them, but have a little bit of lightness or humor, that warmth and love and acceptance. It also has to do with us showing interest in their many interests, kind of enjoying the world with them. That can be a real gift of working with the Tiggery sanguine temperament. But they will respond better if they feel like they're not being shamed or put down because they are easily distracted or don't complete tasks. If we're hyper-focusing on that, then they can become kind of chaotic, dysregulated, not feel as safe.
And they'll become evasive. Right? If you're thinking if you're trying to really, get them to take this seriously, and, they will, they don't view truth in the same way that a melancholic or a choleric does. And so if you're saying, did you do that, you kind of get on them, it's like grasping at air, and they'll just kind of, right, away. Where some of the other temperaments won't do that in the same way. Let's see. Let's go to phlegmatic now. So this is the poos. Yep, really the poos. And they really thrive with steadiness from the adult, right? Don't rush them, right? They move along at their own pace, comfort, both physical, food, warmth, cozy places, and then when we're teaching them something, it's through example. Right? I can say to a choleric child, go out there, do bup, 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 bup. Right? Yes, off they go. Right? And the phlegmatic, whoa, right? So one thing, do this. But if you show them and they get it, then they have it, and they will continue to do it. So with the sanguine, they're often very bright, but as a teacher or a parent, you can feel like you're writing on the sand at the shore, right? For tiggers, where they learn something, you're like, and then the next day, where'd it go? And they get it again very quickly, and it's gone. What the heck? With the phlegmatic, it's slow, right? And it'll be like, you're like, okay, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get this.
Really believe it.
Right? We're gonna get this, believe it. And then when they have it, they have it. And they will do that task or do that thing in that way from then on.
They also have a lot of endurance.
Yes.
They have a lot of, they can go a long way and they'll stay with something for a long time. It just takes a longer time for these things to take root in them. But they have a lot of endurance and they're very steady.
Yeah. So for a sanguine or a choleric parent, the Winnie the Pooh child can be sometimes challenging. Because as a parent, you're like, you gotta get moving. Do you want to do something? Why? This is good. I'm happy. You're happy. We're here together. It's all good. Right?
If you have to get them somewhere, just bring their coloring.
Yep. Yep.
And they can sit in color.
Yep.
While you actually get a million things done.
So the sanguine children may show up to sports for the social aspect. Right? It's just kind of fun, and the activity is sort of fun. The the phlegmatic, that may be that a parent has gotten them into that, right? But then once they get into the rhythm and they're doing it, they can be quite good at it, be suited for it. When we get...
And by the way, a choleric, when they go into sport, they want to win. That's why they're there. They're there to do their best and to win.
To crush, to dominate.
To be a hero.
Yeah. I mean, and so that is the, for the choleric, they need adults that are willing to be a mountain, right? And so when they are crashing into things with their will forces, yep, rules are still this, right? I'm a mountain, you're not gonna move me. Now, when you are choleric as a parent, it can be a little dicey, right? And the fires can really get going. But that's what they really need, is those strong boundaries from us, right? So, and challenges, right? A task, a challenge, they can be really challenging to parent and to teach, and then so rewarding, right? Because you give them something to dig their teeth into, and they are gonna go, right? And they want to please, and they want to show you, and they want to show themselves what they can do, right? And so, amazing to have. They can be amazing leaders in the class, but we need to be, boom, very strong and confident in ourselves, and have our shit together.
And they know when we don't.
Because that is, so the sanguine, the sort of unforgivable thing, would be not to love them, right? To not have warmth towards them. They are going to push you away, right? With the phlegmatic, if you are chaotic and you're not staying with the rhythm, that. The choleric can overlook a lot, but not incompetence. If you are not good at what you are doing, then they will lose respect for you, and no matter how nice you are, that does not matter to them. Right?
And that's mostly because they don't feel safe. They just want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And so they're looking to who is a trustworthy and reliable, competent person here.
And they are more than happy to challenge. If they think, I remember I was not a particularly difficult child, but I do remember being in junior high, and for some reason, I don't even know what the scenario was, my parents were having one of those sit downs with me, and I would mostly just kind of set my jaw and pretend to listen for that time because I had to. And they were saying you have to respect your teachers. And the other part about cholerics, if you don't know, can tend towards the arrogant side of things. And so my response was, why they're not as smart as I am. Which is, and from the choleric point of view, that's how they're viewing the world. Why should I respect this parent, teacher, coach, whatever it may be? They're not up to snuff. And it really doesn't matter all of the other things that might help another temperament be drawn to you. And the choleric can't overlook that piece. With the melancholic, so this is the Eeyore character, they really, really need our recognition and our acknowledgement and our validation of their inner experience. Right? Saying, wow, that was really hard. I can see where that would really be, that could make you really sad, right? And if you want to spoil it, you can then try and point to something happy, right? And try and cheer them up. That's not going to work in that time. What you can do, though, is point towards your time for yourself or for other people who have overcome a similar difficulty. And the overcome part is important, right? If it's just a sad story that no one rose above and then was able to help others, bring their gifts into the world, that sort of thing, that's not going to be very beneficial for them, right? Because the danger for, with the choleric, we have this sort of overblown arrogance and ego that can come in. With the melancholic, they can get very turned inward and sort of egoish in an inward looking way. But if you can help them to see, oh, lots of people have pain and suffering, then they can turn that care and that understanding outward, right? They're going to become a much better listener and a much more sort of empathetic and understanding individual, likely, than your cholerics and your sanguines are going to be able to manage. Right? But we have to help them see and acknowledge that. Anything you want to add in there?
I think in the spirit of time, it could be good to open up some space for specific questions, but also I think it would be great for us to just kind of, we're giving you pictures of these different temperaments, where some of their challenges and their gifts are, kind of ways to understand and connect with them, but also ways to direct their behavior. So in a nutshell, and please add on to this, like if a choleric needs a rabbity kiddo needs some direction, giving them a task or something meaningful or a job or kind of giving them some kind of direction can help them get back on track. So some kind of good work, not something meaningless, but something important. If a choleric kiddo is fired up, they need to burn out. It's not a good time to confront them. It's not a good time to point out their bad behavior. In fact, it's humiliating, and they're very sensitive. They do not like being called out in front of other people. So let them cool down. They're fiery. Let them cool down and talk about it later. With a tiggery kind of kiddo, they may need to also do good work or something, but they might need to work with somebody who can keep them on task or alongside of you, or have a smaller doable instruction. They just might need a bit more guidance, a little more hands-on, where a cleric can go out and do something and be successful.
And they don't want you looking over their shoulder.
They don't want you looking over their shoulder. They really want to be able to do it on their own, but they also need instructions. Sometimes clerics don't think they need instructions, but they do. So they do need that leadership and guidance, but they want to do it on their own. Versus a tigger that would much rather do it with company. Have some company, can I have some company? But okay, and then keep me on track. Tiggers, if they're in a sort of a behavioral situation and you see something that isn't congruent with your values or the classroom norms or the team norms, tiggers need you to point it out to them right then, in the moment. So a rabbit, not so much. They know probably that they crossed the line and they need to calm down and collect themselves. A tigger, if you wait, they won't know what you were talking about.
Why are you bringing up that ancient news from this morning?
I don't know. I don't even remember what you're talking about. I don't remember that situation. So tiggers actually need you to come in a warm, loving way and be like, hey, sweetheart, that's not what we do. we're gonna go pick that up or whatever, like, you know, we don't say that or we don't do that, like, this is, so we're gonna, and you go in and you just kind of guide them and help them complete the task or apologize or, you know, whatever, support them in that, but it needs to be then, not later. And Eeyore, you know, Eeyore's right, Travis said earlier, they're gonna just do better if they feel understood. So some amount of saying, I know this is hard, I know you don't wanna do this, I know this takes a lot of energy, you know, so, and you're thinking, just like, oh my God, just get your clothes on, you know? Like, oh, it's so hard, you know, yes, like, I wonder how we can make this easier. But they need warmth too, and connection, and love, and acceptance. They need a lot of acceptance and believing in them. And we know we can get through this. We're gonna get through this. This is really hard, but we're gonna get through this. And then you look for like little moments of success, like little moments of overcoming the difficulty, and like helping them through those harder things. And then a Pooh Bear, do you want to speak to directing like with a disciplinary sort of piece?
If they are doing the like heels dug in Pooh Bear sort of thing, you're gonna have to wait, because otherwise you're not gonna like drag them forward
And get out of their face.
and so similar to the choleric, we're gonna have to let that pass a little bit, and then you may need to kind of wake them up with something.
A Pooh Bear.
Yes. Yeah. So like a little snap or a little knock on something, because the Pooh Bears are actually the kind of only one that will sort of slip completely into neutral, right? Where the sanguines will get distracted, the cholerics are thinking about the future, the melancholics are thinking about the past, and the Pooh Bears will just and you know, they're not unhappy, but you know, yeah, but you may, before you kind of redirect, may need to jingle something or kind of like, hey there, and you'll see them go, oh yeah, what? And they'll kind of come back to you.
And you may be able to put on like a happy little tune
Mhm.
for a Pooh Bear. Like in some ways the energy changes, but they don't like you to be confronting them directly or telling them to hurry up or they need to rush or complete something. They kind of need you to move a little bit to the side and keep going. You have to keep going, but then give them time to come out of that resistance or stuck feeling that they might have, and then come along.
Should we do 2 minutes on how to approach change with each one, and then do questions?
Okay.
Or do you want to go?
Yeah,
Is that good?
go ahead.
Okay, so with the sanguine, if there's some change coming up in the family or that sort of thing, it's not a big worry, right? That's something new. Right? Woo, excitement, surprise. That's great.
Tigers love change.
Yeah, they love change. That's awesome. For the melancholic, preview it. Days ahead, if you can. Really. And remind them, remind them that, yes, it's natural to maybe be worried about that. And remember when you were feeling this way about this, and look how well you did. And remember how you were feeling this way about this, and look how well you, and remember, right? And kind of build that up, right? For the phlegmatics, for the Winnie the Poohs, again, preview, right? This is going to be happening, but the reassurance there is, and you're still going to be doing this, and we're still going to have this, and we'll still have blankie, or we'll have our snacks, or whatever it may be, right? That's that reassurance, that kind of comfort bubble around them, right? And, for the choleric in general, like, whoo, this might be hard. I might need your help with this. All right, this is going to be happening. It's going to take a lot of work. We need you to really kind of dig in and help us do this. All right, so, yeah, that's a very brief look at that, but
yeah. So it's kind of it's an interesting picture of looking at these temperaments and what the kind of overview or the feeling or the flavor is. it can feel a little bit like, whoa, when I'm this and my child is this, or my other child is this, or my partner is this, and especially because many of us have overlapping. I always joke that I have like the worst combination because I'm fiery, I'm choleric, and very, on top of things and let's go and get things organized, but I'm also melancholic. So I'm also suffering a lot. It's a very weird feeling because I have a lot of drive and energy and vitality, but I'm also internal and deep and suffering and looking at the past. And it's like it's diagnosable, actually. It's a problem. It's a good therapist.
And in terms of there being a best temperament, neither the phlegmatic or the sanguine would care very much about that question, right? The melancholic would know that of course they do not have the best temperament. They would never get so lucky. And the cholerics are going to be sure that they definitely have the best temperament. So it's an easy question.
But it's, please know that it's very nuanced.
Yeah.
There isn't like a right formula. It's more that what we're hoping for tonight is that we ignite kind of an interest. And here we are also like cracking up all night because we're like, oh my God, that's so my kid. Or, oh wow, that's so me. And just being able to bring this interest and like curiosity and almost lightness, I wonder how I, with my nature, can connect better to this particular child or this particular athlete or this group of students. So yeah, we just really are hoping that, yes, it's a fair bit of content and it's very nuanced because there's these four natures, you probably have a combination, then your different times of life you're influenced by them, and then you've got your partnerships. I mean, it's a little complicated, but hopefully what we're doing is just going, oh, I never thought about it like that. Also appreciating the gifts and the challenges, because each nature has their gifts and they have their challenges, and being able to focus in on the gifts and the strengths is an important part of guiding. But anybody in, sort of 5 minutes or so want to bring up anything specific? Could be classroom related, could be athlete related, could be family or child related at home.
Something we didn't cover or was confusing.
So I have a child that has the same problem as you. She is very driven and suffering at the same time, and she can't control her suffering. So it makes it really hard because she's exploding and falling apart, crying at the same time.
Yes.
So she wants to be accepted and appreciated, and also be giving her this strong will mountain. So it makes it very hard because sometimes she wants to be hugged, and sometimes she doesn't want you to touch her. And then the other child is just the sticker over there, like, hey, take me. How long is it gonna take? I wanted to do this. So the suffering rabbit can take over a lot of the attention, so it makes it hard to.
That is a great
We
reality.
should have like 8 different temperaments, and then we'll add the suffering rabbit.
So like, my question is on that one. What do I focus more on? The acknowledging the suffering, or the redirecting a task and the mountain?
Yes. Both. Honestly, I don't know about you, how you think about this, but I would say being that temperament, there's probably the acknowledgement first, like some kind of genuine acknowledgement first. I see that's really hard, or oh, that was really disappointing, or it didn't go the way you wanted, or you're really worried about that. Not too much or too long.
Because they don't want you to think that they're weak.
Well, that's because they're the suffering rabbit. Our child is this way too, right? Terrible, terrible combination. But look, I'm here to say you can be okay, most of the time. but it's really painful because they feel so lonesome and so isolated and so separate and so misunderstood. But they also hate their own vulnerability, and they don't want to be seen as weak. So a certain amount of acknowledgement and understanding, compassion, and space is really important, but not too much. And if you're impatient with them, that's also really painful. So it may be that there's just enough contact, enough connection with the suffering, and then a kind of a believing in them, a sense that they can overcome this, or giving them a task that they can be successful at. But sometimes it won't work.
It's just hard.
It's hard because they may need a little more time.
Well, it makes a lot more sense to me because it would be, I made the mistake and I said, hurry up, Harper, we might be late. They just heard late. And then it was explosive all the way to the school, and then it was crying because, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna know I'm late.
Yeah.
And then she's like, now I'm crying, look what you did, Mom, my eyes, and everybody will know. And I'm like,
So sensitive.
you decided to cry, just stop.
We don't know what you are, baby. It's obviously what needs to happen.
It looked great. Yeah. So now I know that she doesn't like to be embarrassed. That's her big thing. I'm like, why are you being so embarrassed? You're the one who decided to have this big explosion before we go to wherever we're going. So, yes, I am a rabbit. It does make it very hard. You're a rabbit.
Yeah, it does.
It's super hard.
It's hard to be patient and not be overly sympathetic or overly bossy. And usually you don't do it perfectly right. But it's like both. It's the flavor of both.
I like how you recognize that you kind of emphasize the word late and how that could impact your daughter and how she focused on that just small word and just to make out of it.
Yeah, she has taught me what to not say or use different words because some can be very triggering.
And that's another thing is sometimes with kiddos like this, you can say, okay, oh dear, so sorry. In the future, if, what would be more helpful? Because sometimes a choleric kiddo might say, well, don't do this, do this. They might have ideas. So sometimes we can invite their perspective or invite what might be more successful. Certainly as they're getting older, they may have their own ideas about this. Pooh Bears aren't going to really care. They might actually say, I don't know, seems fine. Seems fine. And Tigers are like, going along, or they're not going along, but it doesn't really matter. They're not taking it as personal. But Eeyores definitely feel very deeply personal, and things feel very deeply personal to them. And that's the suffering.
I have a question about, I have a Tigger Rabbit combo,
Yeah.
and well, it just resonated when you talked about like incompetence. So I guess my question is like, how do you deal with that when she has deemed in her mind this teacher, coach, she can sniff out like insecurity, she can sniff out dysregulation, and so she's like, oh, I have now kind of deemed you as you don't have control of the class, you're incompetent, so I don't really feel like I need to listen to you because I have my own ideas, I know what I want to do, and I'd rather stay outside and play. I don't really care about story time anymore.
Yeah, so Tigger, Rabbit.
Man, you really have to sort of, like, they're not going to, you're not going to convince them to respect that person. You're just not. But you can appeal to, who they are and what they want to do. Because and then it does come down to that, like, yeah, I understand that's hard, and this, it's not how you would like the classroom to be run or something like that. And the rules are still this, and I will be expecting you, right? So you have to then take that authority role. I will be expecting you to still follow the teacher's expectations.
And sometimes it works too to say, well, I know, like
What's right.
what's right, or what would take the classroom forward. And not that we want them to usurp the teacher, but sometimes just saying, essentially, we know you know how to behave, or you know what our expectations are, or the team expectations are. So you still need to follow what you know is true and right, and perhaps that will be an influence on the group, but we don't necessarily give them all that responsibility. We just say, stay true to yourself. And of course, you still have to follow the rules. And let's plan something fun to do later, right? Especially with that rabbit, or the Tigger part. They also want to know that something fun is going to come along, that they're going to be able to have some fun. Maybe one last one for now, but you can always email us or call us, because there's so much.
Tracy had a question. There's a question. This is the last one.
No
Suggestions for Pooh Bears, being a parent that is firm and actually takes their child into growth and education when they themselves are. Yeah.
How to inspire Pooh Bears.
Yeah, I mean, especially as a leader or coach, Pooh Bears, the personality. Imagine a Pooh Bear parent. Any suggestions? I mean, obviously, we can't have you coming and snapping when we're trying to parent. But
Suggestions?
For a Pooh Bear parent or a Pooh Bear child?
A Pooh Bear parent.
Pooh Bear
when
parent.
you have and I mean, I have a Tigger, maybe rabbit. We're not sure yet. But when you're actually leading these personalities, and you are very much a personality that's go with the flow, and a Pooh Bear in a sense kind of feels like they're not the dominant personality, right?
Okay.
But they do have
She's talking about herself right now. But
they do have to execute, right? And so when you
And they
are
can be
a
really good at it.
non-dominating personality,
Yes, okay,
executing,
so one of
I'll
the
come over
ways
and
a Pooh
execute
Bear
for you.
parent
Yeah.
one of the ways a Pooh Bear parent can support these different temperaments is Pooh Bears are very rhythmical, consistent, predictable. Rhythms, consistency, predictability is actually very securing. So when we go, we're kind of logical, sequential. It's not boring. It's just like, no, this is what we're doing. This is what needs to happen before this. So you can draw upon those strengths of being kind of sequential, rhythmical, even kind of logical. And then if you have a kiddo that has that creativity or that drive or focus, like give them a job, give them something like they can just do. So you can say, okay, you gather all the lunch boxes, you make all the lunches, and they're like, excellent, or you like maybe look for where their strengths are, and you can draw upon their energy, you can draw upon their creative ideas, like if we were going to decide what we might do for dinner, what might we do, because you're like, I don't care, I just can't even think of anything. Someone might say, let's do breakfast for dinner, and you're like, great, let's do breakfast for dinner. Essentially, you're still the authority, you're still making the decision, but you may have drawn upon the gifts in the family.
But the Pooh Bear as a parent or a teacher is actually really
Very comforting,
nourishing
steady,
and
secure.
comforting, like
Safe.
yeah, very much so. we're
Yeah,
at.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Hug, group hug.
We're gonna have breakfast for dinner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you literally said, yeah, like 3 things.
Describing our household so
Pretty much got it.
And then, I mean, seriously, bacon and eggs and pancakes, like, that's perfect.
Awesome. And you can have scheduled spontaneity.
Yes.
Right? You know, where you're like, oh, during this time, we're going to
During
do
this
something
time.
surprising for the child. If that's something that they need, then it's rhythmical for you, but for the child, it's
Okay. Well, as always, it feels like we could have a lot more time, but I think we're going to end with. So I went looking for. I thought, what would be a fun way to end? And I went looking for a poem or poems about the temperaments, and I happened upon this these monologues, these 4 short monologues about the different temperaments, and it was about writing a poem about the temperaments and how each temperament would go about writing this poem.
maybe we should have one of the people that resonate with each temperament read.
We could, or
Or
maybe,
you can-
yeah, I think we'll just,
Yeah.
right? I don't know, these changes
Yeah.
I want Rick to lead the rabbit.
Yeah, but that was for sure. Rick would read it out.
Oh my God. Isn't that so
No, that's literally just the innate response.
Yeah. So funny. And then I did.
do that.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I
That's what her life is like.
I'm like, no. I'm sorry. Hit my glasses. Anything else brilliant you want to say before we end? We do have, how about we pass out? Yeah. And then he laughs. Yeah. So I'm going to pass this way, and let's see, there's 18 copies. I think that's exactly right. And this is the connecting and directing, so take one of those. And this is the overview. So a few of these key points. Okay. And then just as we end, and of course you'll want to be careful. You'll want to be careful as you leave.
It's dangerous out there.
It's dangerous out there. It's dark. We have some lights on, but not that many. So hopefully you make it to your car. So be careful. I'm very worried about you. He's like, come on, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Just bounce. Bounce. If you fall, bounce up.
Roll.
It's just dirt.
Yeah.
Okay, so for fun, this was written by a teacher who is inspired by Waldorf education, and the first poem talks about Waldorf education, but remember, like we said, the temperaments have been around a really long time. So the first part is referring to Waldorf education, but it could be anything that a person is super passionate about.
So essentially, it's like an assignment's been given to do a project on the temperaments, and then there's a little blurb written as if you were each temperament.
Okay, so we're going to start with this one. I am going to write the best poem about temperaments ever made. It will be so good that it will be advertised around the entire Steiner community. People all around the world will gain new insights due to the genius ways in which I present each one. I will have a website and a TV show. I will have my own digital radio station from which I will transmit all the latest updates as our understanding grows. I will interview leading lights in the Steiner community who will share their intuitions and experiences. The mainstream world will pick up, and we will transform the global education system. Politicians from every continent will wake up to the wisdom of Waldorf and begin institutional changes. Grassroots organizations will grow, and from the ground up, we will create the changes that we all want to see in the world. Not just in education, but politics and the arts too will undergo a revolution of the heart and body and the mind. Humanity will unite in one voice for peace and love. Okay, who wrote that?
Silly
Yeah.
Silly Rabbit. Oh my gosh, right? Okay, next. I have been thinking about this poem for 25 days, 16 hours, and 30 minutes. I have meditated on each temperament. I listened very carefully to everything that was said during the lectures and have very detailed notes from which to draw inspiration. I'm building up to a very expressive piece of art. I have analyzed myself in depth and know exactly my own strengths and weaknesses. And I have begun to analyze those around me too, trying to ascertain which category or combination of categories each of my family members and my friends best fits into. My wife, because the man wrote this, tells me that I'm just navel gazing. But I think she's just too superficial, and she really, to really appreciate the depths of my inner life. She's never really understood me. No one has. I feel so alone. One poem. It's hard. It's so lonely. Okay, two more. I have thought very carefully about this task, and I've ordered all my notes into a carefully curated collection, so I know exactly where to find the relevant parts for each temperament. I'm going to take each one in turn and deal with it methodologically until I get through them all. When the going gets tough, I will persevere. I might start with some definitions. There's no need to wax lyrically too much. I want to present the facts as they are. The facts will, of course, speak for themselves. I just need to structure them in the right way to get my message across. I really want to impress the course leaders. I hope they like it. Well, I'll make a start as soon as I've had a nice cup of tea and maybe some cake. Oh, there. Okay, last one. Last one. He has to take his last one.
I am going to have so much fun writing this poem about the temperaments. I'm going to use such colorful language to describe each one. Maybe I'll find a friend of each type and chat to them to get some ideas. Or maybe I'll paint a picture. That would be more artistic. Maybe I should paint 4 pictures, one for each. Or I could use different media, sculpture, watercolor, pen and ink, collage. I could make a mixtape and use genres of music and do a dance. I did actually think of a song for each temperament. A military band, salsa, classical, and Radiohead. Oh no, I've left it to the last day and I haven't decided what to do. It's fine, I'll blag it, no one will ever know. I'll charm them with my quick wit and cheeky smile. They'll forgive me because I'm lovely.